pudding snacks.
What it do, snackers, snackettes, and snack X's? It's your boy Gage. I'm here with Jokes and Sin, and it is time for another episode of Spoiler Boys.
Spoiler Boys.
We are absolutely here to spoil your movies, your TV shows, and anything else we feel like. You know what? We should start spoiling video games. Let's just you know what I'm saying?
Just throw it in the repertoire.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can do that. But specifically right now, we are here to spoil the final episode of Secret Invasion, episode 6, called Home. Titled Home. So per the usual way that we do things, let's go around the horn. Let's get some scores. Jokes, I'll start with you. What's your score for this episode?
I'm at a 7.
Sin, what's your score for this episode?
I'm at an 8.
I'm at a 7 right now. Maybe a 7.5. But I'm also at a 7 right now. Which is an interesting turn of things. Definitely going to be digging to find some of those things out. When we get towards the end of the this episode, once we kind of talk about this specific episode, we'll talk about our overall thoughts of the season. And give our grades for the overall season. But for now, let's get into the episode. Again, like I do kind of want to avoid the play-by-play, blow-by-blow. Look, if you're watching this, you saw the episode. If you didn't, then you don't care that we spoil it. So we don't need to walk you back through it as if you didn't watch it. I have some very key points that I want to talk about. I'm sure you all have some very key moments and some points that you all want to talk about. I know, Jokes, that there are some things that are bothering you, bruh. You've been all in the MCU chat, letting some things be known. You know what I'm saying? So I know you got some stuff on your chest, Jokes, and I'm going to make sure I give you an opportunity to speak on it. I before getting into, I guess, again, certain individual things, I do want to get an overall idea from you both about how you feel the episode ended. How do you feel about where it leaves us? Yeah, not even necessarily as a series, but just how do you feel about the way the episode ended? Because I think that might be one of the problems that I have with it, but I'd like to hear where you all are. Sin, I'll start with you.
The way this episode concludes, even though I liked what was kind of happening, I was just underwhelmed, I think is the word I'm looking for. Like, it didn't feel as big as a spectacle as it should have been, with the president making his statement that he made, kick you off our planet, we're coming to get you. It feels like it should have been a grander kind of thing, but it was just like so dull, bland, if you will.
It felt underplayed, right?
Yeah, like it felt like this seems like it should be a much bigger deal that's happening, but the show's not selling it that way. You know what I mean? Nick Fury calling him and them having a conversation you just kind of messed up, right? You know what's going to happen. They're going to start killing each other, and we're going to think that person's going to scroll. You see all this stuff happening, but as they're saying and it's happening, I feel like the show isn't displaying the magnitude of what Nick is trying to say to him, like after what he's done. Like it's kind of bland and dull. Like I said, I like what was happening, just the way they played it up. They didn't play it up enough, I would say, for me, to make it seem like this is something much bigger going forward.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that, actually.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo that and just say that I feel like, it's weird. It might be that it is perfect the way that they ended, because for me, so much of the series has been about Nick Fury not really being the old Nick Fury and not really being a threat, and like he calls the president directly, right? And basically threatens him, right? Like, yo, you made a mistake, take back what you said, right? Like, call it off, undo it, because what you said is like a very one-term president kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right?
I thought that was interesting, the one-term president thing, because we were wondering about how they were going to make the switch. It was like, okay.
and what's happening as they're talking about it, where you're seeing, you know, people who had been replaced with Skrulls being murdered because they don't know if Skrulls or not. You see people who are still Skrulls, which is a little weird, right? But still a thing. And you know, they're being murdered. So now you have these vigilantes that are kind of out there just doing, you know, whatever. And Nick just kind of has the conversation with the president, hangs up the phone, and kind of, you know, pimps off to go in a ship back, you know what I'm saying, to a space station. And, you know, look, Nick isn't looking for kudos. I don't think that's ever what he did it for. But it just means that it felt like an empty threat. So it was kind of like, you're telling him to call it off, but if he doesn't, what are you gonna do? Like, what's the, you know what I mean? And it felt like, all right, well, I'm gonna still go and have the happy ending. Like, I'm gonna reunite with my wife, and you know, she shows up, and we about to go off in space, and she gonna be a diplomat, and you know, whatever. And it's like, it almost feels like Nick now doesn't care what's happening on the planet. I'm going back to space. I'm just like, I ain't even, you know what?
He
took
care of what his issue that is he caused, even though technically it opened up a whole nother can of worms in trying to solve said issue.
It just felt I don't know, dog. Like you're right, Sid. It felt, for there to be so much violence at the end of it as they're having that conversation.
Yeah.
It just really felt underwhelming. Like, it was just like, okay. I mean, still, I'm like, dang, they just out here murdering humans, looking for Skrulls. But it also leaves us in a very, very high state of like, okay, so what does that mean?
Right.
What's happening next? And obviously, Brave New World is coming, and you know, we'll get to that. But I was underwhelmed, and Jokes, it sounds like you felt the same way.
I'm in the same position. It's like threaten the president. So once he does the threat to the president, you know, I'm expecting, you know, a little more to come out. Like, just like you said, what is it that you're going to do if the president doesn't change his stance on where he's at currently right now? But Fury just left it at that, ran back to Saber. Like, so it just felt like, just like I said, an empty threat. I would expect this dude to roll up more. That, to me, even though he has a direct contact to the president, I feel like that should have been like a Nick Fury in the White House, in the Oval Office, or wherever he is. Like, hey, listen, that was a bonehead decision that you did, and like kind of doing it face to face, and then kind of showing at that point, you know, what would happen, whether it be, you know, him having like, hey, listen, President, I know you've done X, Y, Z, some things that you shouldn't have done, and if you don't turn your stance on it, I'm about to out you on like all this or something like that. Something, a Nick Fury thing that he would do. But since we don't technically, this isn't the same always 2 steps ahead Nick Fury that we have. It's like he's been stutter stepping a little bit. Like, he at points of time, it seems like he gets ahead of it, but then there's those few points where it's kind of like, oh man, I missed out on this. So
yeah,
maybe that's where we're at. And this is just that Nick Fury that's kind of being a little more reserved than being that to the front of it. Like, listen, I'm coming there right now. We're gonna have it out right now. And get you.
It should have been like after you got off the broadcast or whatever, have people in the Oval Office, they left, and then Nick Fury just shows up like like he turns around and Nick is sitting there like, yeah, so we gotta have a talk.
What you doing in my seat? Get up.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I can understand that there's a plan for the future. It just made the way that this ended feel again underwhelming, and it does open a lot of doors and leaves a lot of space for a lot of things to happen and for there to be turmoil and chaos and whatever. And again, we'll kind of get to what this means going forward. But I just kind of wanted to, because again, I think that's mostly the episode as a whole kind of felt underwhelming to me. However, I like the episode. I think it's the ending that brought me down. I think it was just that, like, the ending just felt anticlimactic. even though there were people shooting people in the street.
Right.
Like you're saying, like
things were happening, it just came off just okay. Like it was weird. Very weird.
Yeah, because when you end something by raising the stakes, right? If it had ended with that phone call and Ritson basically being like, nah, dog, this is it. I don't care what you say. If that would have been the end of it, I probably would have been much higher on it. But to have him go to walk away and go to Saber, have Vara show up afterwards, him wait, her come out and talk to him and get lovey-dovey and come spend some time with me, and you know, the career open to having discussions with the Skrulls, and you're the best diplomat ever, and kiss me in my own skin and whatever. Like all of what just happened with the murder and the trouble and the whatever, like, not to say that Nick Fury doesn't deserve to have a happy ending, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever. There's a part of me that almost feels like they should have happened opposite each other. Like all of that should have happened first. Like for real, I would have been good if they did all of that and the show ended and there was an after credit. Like he's in space and he calls Ritson and says, yo, and this is not the move. You need to do A, B, and C, whatever. And him being like, nah. And then they ended it. That joint was an after credit. I'd have been like, oh, Brave New World. It's about to go there. Like they didn't sell it. And I feel like they took that very hard edge that would have been a great ending and they softened it by like, kiss me on my green mouth right now. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna come up there and hang out with you for a while. But then also she's like, my important work is down here. Mm-hmm. Excellent. What do you do? What do you mean? What are you doing? What's her work? What is her work down there? Can't hear you, buddy. You're muted, buddy.
I'm thinking it's probably some sort of like counseling Skrulls or something like that who might be having, issues like I want to be in my own skin type of thing. Like maybe she goes around and talks to her people and comforts them and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it's something along those lines. What she does.
That conversation got left on the cutting room floor.
Jokes. Mm-hmm. You're at a 7 and you've been at an 8 for basically this entire series. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about what your issues are with this episode.
So, like, I like the episode. I still feel like we talked about this. I expected the last episode to probably be a little bit longer, closer, maybe not as long as one of the first 2 episodes, but I thought maybe that 45-minute mark probably would have been a little bit better to flesh things out. Like,
I agree.
Getting the build up to the fight with Gaia and Gravik, like, don't get me wrong. The moment Fury was like coughing and stuff going, I was like, this dude's smarter than that. So that part was a little. I'm like, he wouldn't just go in here to just die. So I was like, okay, I'm walking with.
I mean, he had his pills.
He had them.
He had pills.
But I feel like some of these parts were just rushed. Like the whole build up to get to the point to unveil Gaia as being in the Nick Fury skin and Nick Fury show up at the hospital. Like I thought it was great. I think there could have been a little bit more of a slow burn to get us to that. I mean, granted, they did jump back and forth a couple of times in between, but I feel as though there was a lot they tried to let's just keep it at 30-something minutes and let's just cram it all in there for it. Even the setup when Sonya called Scrody to say, hey, yo, Fury is coming for you. It's coming for the president. And like them just rushing, getting the president upstairs. Like I thought things were executed good. I just think that they could have stretched it out a little bit more, and then maybe that would have given us the little bit of the swap on the ending we could have did to leave it more of that serious tone. Like nothing against Fury having a happy ending. Cool, Fury, you got a happy ending, but to me that's not necessarily the Nick Fury. But obviously this is a different Nick Fury. But there's an element like I didn't hate the episode. I think there could have been a little bit more. They could have a little substance. Maybe that's the word to probably use to throw in there for it. Because it was good, but I just felt as though it was a little dry at times.
Yeah. Sin.
Yeah.
An 8 is kind of high for you. I mean, you've mostly been lower, and you've been talked up to 8. You know
and I might be talked down from an 8, honestly, by the time we finish this.
Again, that's that's what we do as we spoil things. Mm-hmm. What is it about it that made you come in at an 8?
I personally really like once again these conversation pieces they're having in these episodes with Gravik and Fury. I like seeing that, just that anger and emotion.
I love that.
Just that anger and emotion coming out of him towards Fury. I absolutely love that. And then kind of what you were talking about, Joe, going into that conversation and then her calling in, yo, bro, to get the president out there, Nick Fury's coming, and then going back between the scenes and how they were doing it as that reveal starts to pick up and the music starts to pick up. I really love that. People getting plucked off around the hospital. Like, all right, who's grabbing them? Isn't her? Yada, yada. I just really liked all that. Now, once it got revealed that, it was Guy and everything, I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Like that. Once they started fighting, no, I hate this. I don't like this anymore. Stop this. This is bathroom break time for me. But yeah, it was that whole till the reveal, the conversation piece. I really like that part. I think that's what pushed it up for me. Just that whole sequence of events to an 8. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Right after talking about the ending and points are being shaved away as we talk.
Yeah, I mean, his was kind of all right. Look, there's a lot I like about the way the episode is done, right? A lot of what you're talking about, going from one scene to the next scene, back to the other scene, that back and forth. Fury calling Vara and having that brief conversation with her. She, she's walking out the house, there's blood everywhere, and she looks at the phone and then answers it, and it was like, hello? And, he's talking to her, and she's like, you don't ever call this joint. You know what I mean? Like, you never call. And his response being, I've dialed this number 1 million times. Mm-hmm. This is just the first time I've ever pressed send, right? I thought was cool. I thought it was important. Yeah. And to me, it said that he was aware that he might be going to do something that he might not come home from. Because she asked him, like, are you coming back? You know what I mean?
Yeah, she even stopped in her tracks when he said that. Like, there's something real going on. Yeah.
Right? So I thought that was interesting. The problem that I have with it is that I'm currently unsure whether or not that was actually Nick that made that phone call. So, like, conversations like that, right? So, as dope as the conversation between Gravik and Fury was, it bothers me that Fury never actually heard any of what Gravik had to say. That none of the anger, the animosity, none of what he's actually feeling, Fury never got to. And it's like, in the moment, yes, you think that Fury is actually hearing it and that is being said to him. So, like, and look, and it's cool. Like, I'm not against the fact that it was her and it was a smart play and whatever, but it does kind of take away from,
like, if they had like earbuds or something in that moment and he heard it on his end or something like that.
Yeah, it would have just something. It would have done something more for me. Hearing Gravik say to him, do you not recognize his face? Right? This is the first person I ever killed, and I killed him because you told me to kill him. Mm-hmm. Which I think is supremely important information for Gaia to have, right? Mm-hmm. For Gaia to understand Gravik and where he is. Yeah. But it's so much more important that Nick would have heard that or would have understood it. Mm-hmm. It makes me now wonder if Nick did remember who that person was. If Nick did know who that person was.
Nick knows.
Probably. But in that moment where there's no response, and he's like, you don't even remember, do you? Like, you know what I mean? And that just makes him even more angry and feel like Nick Fury is even more heartless. And you know what I mean? Like, you don't even care. And when he's literally pouring out his heart and saying, every single person that I killed for you took a piece of my heart away from me every time I did it. It's literally telling you that Gravik was a child, was a young person, but that was willing to do any and everything for Nick Fury because Nick Fury promised them a home. And so he was willing to hurt people, to take lives, to do things to people that he literally said, this person, this man had a wife and kids, and I killed him. And basically said, I didn't want to do it, but I did it because you told me to do it. And the fact that, like, now in hindsight, right, by the time the episode is over, it's like, well, Nick never even heard any of that. And it's like, there's not even a moment where like Nick and Gaia have a sit down and here's a debrief. You know what I'm saying?
What
like,
happened? They never crossed paths again.
Like, I really wanted, you know, Gravik and Talos kind of had that moment, even if it was brief, in the restaurant, right? But Nick and him never did. And so, like, because he's so blinded by his anger towards Nick, and now we have an understanding why, there's still a part of me that feels like Nick should have heard that. And it kind of dulled that moment for me, the fact that he's saying those things and he's not getting the response out of Nick Fury that he wants, which kind of makes sense now, knowing that it wasn't actually Nick, right? But it I don't know, it just kind of took that down for me. The acting, incredible.
Spot.
In that moment, dog, I'm feeling everything that he's saying. And again, Marvel does a great job of putting forth these villains that you can, then they humanize them, quote unquote, and you can kind of feel them. You understand that this is a person who would do anything for you, would literally will kill people for you, anybody for you, will do, you know, whatever you ask me to do, I'll do it. And you just never. And so then even the responses that they're getting when it's like, you know, I knew by the time, you know, I knew within a couple of years I was never going to be able to find y'all a home. You know what I mean? Is she making that up? Did he just, you know what I'm saying? Like, she just off the cuffing that to him, just, you know, or whatever. Like, I'm going there to make him so angry that I'm going to end up because again, here's the thing, and y'all know, like, I'm very much like, let's make it make sense. If I'm Gaia and I'm showing up, even if I go in pretending to be Nick Fury, the moment I'm within a shot of you, I'm punishing you, Slim, because as far as we know, currently she has all the powers he has. Right? Like, we only saw her use Extremis.
Right.
But we only saw him use 2 of the 4 powers we knew were available to them. So we don't know technically whether or not in that rush she only gave herself Extremis. But why would you? Like, did you see how easily and how quickly he put that joint in?
He put that joint in and turned that machine on.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, she got every power he got. I'm walking in that joint, and as soon as he look at me and get within reach, and I'm talking about group level reach, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're already on level playing field. We're already on even ground. Why even take the chance of giving him the opportunity to gain all of those other abilities? You understand? So I'm like,
probably to stall for time for Fury to get in place or something like that.
What to tell? I'm just saying, like,
to sneak into the hospital. I don't know.
Let me just. Are we stalling for time while Nick Fury is trying to maybe prevent a nuclear bomb from being sent to where they literally are standing? Like, she walks in, it's like, where's everybody at? Oh, they're locked away. Locked away where? You know what I'm saying? It's cool if they down in the basement somewhere, but literally right now, the president has already called a strike on the place where you are. World War III is about to happen. Why would we be trying to waste time for Fury to get in place? We're trying to stop him and get low because there's a bomb coming. Like, it's just not quite You know what I'm saying? Where I wanted to be. But I get it. We need some plot armor so that we can get these abilities out into the field. At some point, either Gaia was already Nick Fury, or she came and met them. That's who he was talking to at the end of the last time we talked. He had to be talking to Gaia. Hey, it's time, right? Mm-hmm. So he hands the hot thing to her. All she had to do was go in that joint, slit Slim throat, cut his head off, whatever it takes. Pop the joint in there and hook herself up. You know what I mean? If she wanted to, right?
Yeah.
It just, in almost the same way, the conversation that Rhodey and Nick had earlier in the season, when they're talking about being two black men and not just giving each other that space. We don't work this hard to get into these positions just to turn around and give blah, 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 whatever. That feels like a very poignant kind of black man to black man moment. How you want to talking to no black man?
Black man.
He talking to a green lady.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
now that it's over, you go back in hindsight. Like, after the initial watching it, you go back in hindsight, you start thinking about this stuff like, wait a minute, he wasn't really talking that day. You know what I mean? That whole time you see stars and stuff like that, like,
but it makes you wonder. But it makes you wonder though, because obviously the Skrulls would, read the mind of the person that they took over. Is it like, are these actual maybe like the real feelings that each person has, and for whatever various reasons they haven't expressed said feelings? But obviously the Skrulls are just one, they're going to protect themselves in the skin of whoever, so they're now just going to come out and do that. So, but it makes you wonder that is if maybe, let's say, Rhodey gets up to date on everything again. Like, is he going to have some of these same? Granted, that's a lot they're going to have to fill, my man. A whole bunch of them, man, because we still don't know how long any for that matter, any of these people that have been in these positions of power within the different governments have been off the board.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can just go ahead and have the conversation now. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's been confirmed. I don't know if y'all saw it. There's an article, and the director of the show did confirm that Rhodey has been replaced since Civil War.
God, it wasn't as far back as I thought they were going to. I mean, well, it didn't go back as far as I thought it was going to originally go. So but that was still a very pivotal moment where you take him out.
The time when
at the end of the show, he's in the hospital gown.
Yeah.
And he can't walk.
Yeah.
So the fact that he can't walk says to me,
Civil War. That's when it happened.
They pulled him down. As soon as I saw him come out with that white gown on, I was like,
let me see if I have the article right here.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, let me see if I can pull that joint back up.
So he don't know about Tony. Y'all better put that on screen.
And that's what's going to kill me, because I don't think that, I feel like we're going to go into whatever the next time, whether it be Armor Wars, Brave New World.
If they do it with Armor Wars, just show the scene whenever he finds out. Maybe it'll be in a flashback or something like that. I don't know, but I need that scene when he finds out that Tony's dead.
I mean, I have a feeling that that's going to have a lot to do with why he feels like in Armor Wars he needs to, or like, again, look, bro, at the end of the episode, when Sonya walks in and they look at that warehouse and all of those people have been replaced, who are those people? One,
right?
But two, again, we have no idea how. Look, it very easily could be that one of them people in there is the doctor who was supposed to be the person that was working on Rhodey. You know what I'm saying, or whatever, right? Like, it just. But also, again, there's still a lot to, I think, kind of be explored with how Skrulls are affected by the memories of the people they take. We already had a discussion about the one guy being affected by the fact that Nick Fury was going to kill his son, but that wasn't his son. Right? So that's not his real son. He shouldn't even care, but he does. So either, however long he's been in that house, he has formed a bond with that child, or they don't just take the memories, they take on certain levels of emotion with them as well. And when you think back, when Tony died, the first person by his side was Rhodey, crying, right? But when you look at her, when she, does the wipe and changes from herself to Rhodey after the shower scene in this show, she looks like she's disgusted to be in the skin, which is understandable. But it doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't feel some of what
emotions.
Some of what his feelings or emotions are, even though she still has quote unquote a job to do, right? So it does mean that a lot of what we've seen, a lot of the conversations that we've heard, there's the whole thing with like the Tony Stank. Come on, man, that's a one-liner that really only Rhodey should be able to pull off, bruh. And he pulled it off. But more importantly is the moment before that, where he's literally saying how many, like, he says something about, I flew 180 missions or something like that, 100 and however many missions, and he never got hurt or never had any problems in doing this. He, whatever.
Yeah.
It also does mean it would have been much easier for me to believe that a Skrull version of him was interested in having them sign the Sokovia Accords, but it wasn't, because that didn't happen until after the fact. He had already said sign the joints.
Yeah.
Then he got hurt.
And
then he got replaced.
Swapped out. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
it's crazy to think that in the like Avengers Endgame and Infinity War and stuff, that it was a Skrull and it wasn't Rhodey this whole time.
Correct.
You know what? It was perfect because at that time they couldn't necessarily. Well, we don't know technically, but I think at that time they hadn't figured out how to imbue the powers of like the super powered beings and things like that. So that was the perfect person.
Every person.
He's the one.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, don't get it twisted. He's not the only one.
Oh
right?
No!
Because there's Hawkeye. There could have been Black Widow. You know what I mean? Any number of people on S.H.I.E.L.D., whether they were Hydra or not. You know what I mean? There were certainly people who were close to the Avengers or had ties in one way or another that could have had been Skrulls at some point. Skrulls,
right?
Like,
right.
Skrulls. Open your parchment, son. Read it to me. So there are a lot of implications that are left by the fact that we now know technically that this happened after Civil War, right? That's how long Rhodey's been a Skrull,
right? And
that Rhodey has been captive. Now, here's the other thing for me: all of those human beings have been in the irradiated.
Now this is the one that I'm like, this plot armor for this, I need explanation for it.
Look, Nick Fury, quote unquote, walked in that joint pretending he was falling over within like 6 minutes of being there. These people been there for years, bruh. Keep in mind that the MCU is like 2 years ahead of us. They're in 2025. Civil War happened in 2016. Rhodey been a Skrull for like 10 years.
Almost a decade.
Yeah.
Which I love. Don't get me wrong. I love because that.
Hey, dog, me too. But, bruh.
And not to mention, Rhodey and all of the rest of that core group weren't in like them pod jumps. They was just in like
them standing up
outside with the little thing. So they should have been fully exposed
or something, bro. Like,
so I'm confused. Like, unless you're gonna tell me that they were in, I don't know what protects you from radiating lead or whatever it may be, but I feel like to the levels that Nick was when he had the little I forget the proper term for the radiation detector thing.
Whatever they were iodine pills, which is a real thing. Like iodine pills do protect you against radiation. That's a real thing.
Oh no, not the pills. I'm talking about the radiation detector thing that he had. That was flaring up as he was getting closer.
Was spiking so high, bro.
Dog, you're telling me that all of them were fine wherever, and this dude was walking in there, and it got to the dead center in there, and that joint went to the red. That joint was like, "You, sir, do not belong here."
Yep, that's
That was the only thing that I was trying. And they all walked out. They all walked out of the place.
And that's what I'm saying. But that was also important though because everybody else walked out, and Rhodey
did that on purpose.
By other people. So I was like, yo,
that was
my man. Legs don't work. like at all, bro. And he looked more surprised that his legs don't work than he did that he was in some Russian warehouse.
Yeah.
So they probably took my man right out of the damn MRI joke.
But here's the other thing. So it was in Civil War, was it not, that we met Ross?
Yeah,
for the first time.
That's where we met him at. Mm-hmm.
And Ross was in the pod right next.
I feel like there was a few people in between them.
Nah, dog.
It wasn't.
There
was
nobody
right
in between them, dog. No, he turned and looked right at Slim and was like, "Oh, and then asked him, "How long have you been here?" Like, "Hey, Slim, how long you been here?" Like, what you?
The only reason why I don't think they were yoinked at the same time, at least after Black Panther, because when Ross took the bullet and they took him to Wakanda to heal him, I really feel like with their technology, they would have discovered that really quick. Could be wrong, but I felt as though.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We have seen that when they get killed, they change back. Mm-hmm. We have not seen that when they get hit or knocked unconscious that they change back. And it's totally possible that when they change, their entire physiology changed. Like, I know that they're saying in our own skin, and it's easy to imagine that it's just their skin, because when you shoot them, they still... Well, he would have bled purple. So no, that can't be. You got to be right about that. It has to be after Black Panther. Because when he got the bullet in him, he would have bled purple still.
Yeah.
So it has to be after that. So at some point, he got yoinked.
Because we don't see him in Infinity War and Endgame, technically. So I'm thinking somewhere in the mix of that, probably. Could have been during that 5 years.
But it still begs the question whether or not Okoye rescued a Skrull.
Yeah.
Or not at the end of Black Panther 2. Did he get yoinked after that and we just didn't see it? Probably not. Who knows?
So it's like, now I need to go back and watch Black Panther 2 just for his scenes and just
I don't think they would have alluded to any. Like, don't get me wrong, we know Marvel will plant some of those seeds at some point in time, but I really don't feel like there's anything that's going to allude to that until they do some type of retcon where they go, maybe somebody's telling us. I just remember I was going to the grocery store and I got in my car and I don't remember anything that happened after I got in my car.
I mean, they could do anything they want to try to sell it or whatever, but it just still feels like, I don't know. Ross is probably currently the most high profile person besides Rhodey that we know of.
Yeah.
That had been replaced. But the reality of it is, there could have been any number of other people who maybe or maybe weren't tied in some way. What this really means for me is, one, I'm hurt because Hill's really gone. That's a blow.
Facts.
That was still.
Yeah.
That's a blow.
Philly's gonna the whole season, and then she got to the end to sacrifice herself or something. But no.
Episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Guest star.
But here's the other thing. There are implications for this, especially because of how long Rhodey has been a Skrull, that are bigger than what I think we've known. Like, the way that this series states things out from the very first episode is that ever since Nick Fury got dusted and came back, he hasn't been the same. Right? That they went this 5-year period where he was gone, and and Talos says that to him. You were gone, right? And he notified his people, like, yeah, I might as well come here. Okay. But Rhodey got replaced before the dusting happened.
Yep.
Who was up to that? Who did that? You telling me that Gravik was already mad and was already trying to infiltrate? Was there already another sect of people that were already making moves, and they told Gravik, and Gravik was like, you know what? Y'all are right, but I'm gonna step up and be the leader, because what was the purpose? Again, the idea of replacing somebody like Rhodey so that you could get close to the people that have the power makes sense. The idea of replacing somebody like Rhodey because you think maybe they have access to intergalactic information that you haven't been able to get, and maybe that just means you can find out if there's a home or something out there somewhere or whatever. There's also moments like that I didn't think about until this episode, where in the last episode, when Gravik tells the Skrull who is impersonating Rhodey to tell the president to bomb, they're hesitant.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it. But they also realize that like Gravik has kind of gone off the deep end and is like, I'll kill everybody. I don't even care. That's the other thing about this though that is a letdown for me. Because what it felt like Gravik was really going after, I want to destroy this so I can make this a home for my people, turned into something that felt a lot more like I just want to be powerful. And I don't care who lives or who dies or whatever. You would think that somebody who is, even if you're a person who leads by like, you follow me because I'll kill you if you don't. To some extent, you're still like, these are still my people and I'm in it to make us a home. But at the same time, I want to make sure that when we have a home here, I'm the person in charge.
It, and I can be the one like, to take on.
Now it just feels like, oh, you just want superhuman abilities. You know, like it felt like all of the like, even with again Gaia saying to him as Nick Fury, here it is, just take it and get off the planet. Get off my planet.
Take your go wherever you want. Another one. Ravage there.
Go whatever. I don't care what you do. Just leave my planet alone, right? Which again is not really a very Nick Fury thing to say, but whatever, right? In the moment, you're there, you're about to die because you radiation poison and you gambling or whatever. And I can understand Gravik being blinded by his anger / his hatred, by him not really getting answers that he wanted, from Fury. But he just kind of he went, even in the moments where like you can feel his anger and you understand why he is where he is, they just kind of turned him from somebody who really was on a conquest to take care of his people because he was lied to and whatever, to somebody who just felt like they were an angry, like just a regular old villain. Like,
this is like, I just want revenge no matter what. I don't care how many people I gotta kill to get it.
Superpowers.
Yeah.
It here's what it does for me. In the years and years and years of reading comic books, watching, superhero stuff or whatever, and dealing with heroes and villains, so often, especially, in the early days, villains were just people who were interested in doing bad things, right? So, like, the Joker wants to rob banks. For what? You're not going to walk in and buy anything with money. You're going to take it. You're going to steal it because you're the Joker. It doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? Why does Oswald Cobblepot want to rob a bank? When whatever it is you want to buy, you would just send your little Penguin henchman, go steal that car. I want that car. Go, you know what I'm saying? Go in to see if he doesn't give me a candy bar. I want a candy bar. Like, you don't pay for things. So why do you want money? What are you doing? What is your intention? What investments are you making? You know what I'm saying? So, like, there are just these kind of things about villains. Like, when you look at the way villains used to kind of be, where it's just like, we're just doing dastardly things.
I'm gonna steal all this money so I can go over here and buy this mansion the right way.
Why don't you walk in there, put the gun to their head and say, give me a mansion,
and just give me your house. Right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So,
like
that kind of villainy thing went away for a long time, and that wasn't really a thing. And what they did to Gravik at the end of this felt like that.
Maybe they went back to
it's that. Like, it's just like that like the villains who are just like, I want to take over the world or I want to rule the universe. It's so old and so cliche and just feels and seems so kind of dumb right? That like even somebody like a Thanos, who literally could have done that, like could have gotten all the Infinity Stones and been like, I just want to rule the universe, and could have, didn't. I just want there to be enough resources for all the people. And even though he made a stupid decision in order to do it, they made him more human and gave it, you know what I mean? Gave it like actual purpose. At the end of this, Gravik feels less purpose filled. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I feel like that just took away from
the whole build up and this whole character that he has had, because he went from in the beginning to being like the savior. You know, he walked in the door, the pomp and circumstance, everybody cheering, clapping, like this guy is doing this to save the people, to killing dude. And if y'all don't listen to me, y'all gonna have the same thing happen to you that happened to him.
Yeah, my man's like, I kill all of you. Then who are you leading? Like what? Like you know what I'm saying? So it takes a lot of that away from it for me, and some of that speaks to the overall, like what it does to the rest of the season. But just even in that moment, like it just feels like there are these very important, very poignant moments that would have made Gravik. There was a potential for Gravik to just jump on my list of favorite villains of all time.
Yeah, if they just stayed on that path. Yeah.
Even for something that's just like a 6-episode arc, right? Because there was a potential to even show in a what if episode or whatever, like young Gravik doing his thing, just you know what I mean, being this dope spy, or you know, whatever.
In the early episodes, he was killing it with the whole like chess match. Like you don't know how many steps he is ahead of Gaia, ahead of Fury, and all that kind of stuff. His little slow mannerisms, the way he's looking at you, like he was really getting that off in the first half of this, and then it and then
when he would get angry, it didn't feel like it still felt right. Like when he sits down with the council for the first time and they're talking, and he's just like leaning back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just as they talking and whatever. And then he has that moment where he like slams his hand on the table, like it's war. Like he just like that for me was like, oh yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. My man's serious. I don't know, dog. It just it took a lot of that away from it for me. And I would have really liked to have seen, while I do think it was cool to get that match between Gaia and him, because I do think that was just as deserved.
Yeah.
To some extent, right?
They still could have got to that point. They still could have got to that
both
point.
My parents. There was a way to do it, I think. They could have freaked it where that still could have happened. But it also was just kind of like, again, he's always been like 2 steps ahead of Fury. And at this point, he's desperate and he doesn't know what to do. And so he calls Fury and he's like, bring me what I want. And Fury's just like, okay. You know, like it just, I don't know. Yeah. And he just sits and he waits. So like Fury walks in and he's just sitting in the room, you know, just waiting. And it's also kind of like, Fury's not supposed to know his way around the joint. And he just like finds his way to the room that happens to be the room that Gravik is sitting in, that happens to be the room.
While he's dying of nuclear poisoning.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I know Nick old, but my man was like collapsing, like walking on the sidewalk before he even got anywhere.
Got in the zone. And that was just not even all the way halfway up the meter, and he was still already.
I mean, it just, you know, the other thing is, when you think about that and the way that Gaia ends up being there, you see Nick kind of going through and kind of being surprised, right? That when he walks in, like everybody's dead, which is understandable if you're Gaia. You know, you know your way around, you know where all the cameras are, you know what I mean? But like, if that had been Nick, if there were Skrulls that were just like there, chilling, which would have been the expectation, I would think, all my man had was a handgun. Like, some resistance. Like somebody was going to yank my man up. Maybe the plan was going to be, look, I'm going to get yanked up. They're going to drag me to wherever he is. And when I get there, you know, it's going to have to be,
something.
You know.
Yeah.
Again, there's some moments, bro, for me. Here's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Sin. does it bother you that Gaia is now the most powerful character in the entire MCU?
Yes. I don't know why, but it bothers me so much. Like, it just...
She didn't earn it.
What? No.
That's why.
Yeah, like that, like seeing her with all those powers, like, it just feels... Honestly, it just feels wrong.
She's the cheat code.
She's very much the cheat code, yes. And she's in a space where it can go either way. You know what I mean? So she could be Earth's greatest asset or greatest enemy right now. You know what I'm saying? Just depending on how things go in the future.
There's a part of me that likes the fact that she's aligned with Sonya. That makes me feel like we're gonna get more Sonya. That's one.
That's good with that. I'm good with that.
Yeah, Sonya's worth it.
Because she's easily my favorite thing about this entire series.
Agreed.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like 100%. And it does mean that there's some future things that could be happening based on what that is. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what that really means. Let's run down the list real quick. Jokes. When my man puts the vial into the toaster oven and the computer begins to read instantly all the DNA that's in there, I want to go down this list.
It's dumb, stupid.
There are some names on here I'm going to save till the end.
Because there's a few I got a couple questions about, but
all right, so let me just run it down. Extremis, Winter Soldier, Gamora, Thor.
Oh, she a super ass whooper.
Valkyrie, the Chitauri.
Okay,
easy enough.
Hulk.
Yep.
Hulk. Korg. Drax. Cull Obsidian. Mantis. Abomination. Proxima Midnight. Outriders. The little nasty things that were running into Wakanda, like scratching at the shield or whatever that ran in there. Those are the Outriders. Thanos. Corvus Glaive.
Saw that riff.
Captain America. Groot. The Frost Beast. Those two we already knew. Captain Marvel. Ebony Maw. And Ghost. Ghost might be the most important.
Yeah. As soon as I saw her blink in and out, I was like, "Oh, you can go invisible."
Yeah, ain't nobody beating her.
No, hey, listen.
They're gonna have to cheat. They're gonna have to cheat and create some type of weapon or something to drain most of those powers.
Captain Marvel can clearly beat Shuri. Simply because she used Captain Marvel's powers to beat him. And he had all the same powers she had.
Hey, Sin. Hey, I just thought about, like, we know the age of mutants is going to start probably with the Deadpool thing. But
it's kind of already happened.
It's kind of already Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
What if we do get Rogue, but they don't go the path of her getting her stuff actually from Captain Marvel? She could actually now become that linchpin.
Who is? Oh, like Rogue could touch the Super Skrull,
and maybe, like, don't get me wrong, Captain Marvel's strong.
Maybe only get certain powers.
And maybe somehow she only absorbs Captain Marvel's abilities. Obviously, Captain Marvel's strong, but then she also
what she's using at the time. So she's using Captain Marvel's powers, and she drains that from those powers from the Super Skrull.
I mean, you have to keep in mind that, like, the thing about the Super Skrull, and you would see this in the old school when, like, it was just the Fantastic Four's powers, that they would have one arm would be the Thing, and one arm would be on fire, and one leg would be stretching, and another part of them would be invisible. So they can literally channel whatever piece of DNA they want to whatever part of their body they want or need.
Yeah.
Or the whole thing, with the exception of something like Extremis, because Extremis is automatic. Right? Because you're dead. And that joint is just like, nah, you're not.
That was another red flag. We'll get to there's another red flag about that too.
Also, the power of the Hulk. Because this Bama can't kill himself. Remember, put a gun in his own mouth and pulled the trigger.
The other guy spit
it out. And the big guy woke up and spit out the bullet.
Huh? Black Widow threw him off a cliff.
Facts.
Came back up and was like, all right, what? Yeah.
On purpose. So, bruh, the list of abilities. And again, they're not using them all at one time. So it's not like the combined strength of like the Hulk and Thanos and like
she
whatever.
Was doing
right?
some multitasking when she was fighting. She was doing some
That's
multitasking.
What I'm saying. Like the first thing you see her do is basically walk around with Groot's arm. I mean, not Groot, with Drax's arm.
Yeah.
As a response to, I think, Abomination's arm. Like,
hey, I got one other question. Because aren't Drax's like arm marks tattoos? I thought he said those were tattoos.
But you know what? But here's the thing. Here's what's crazy about that. In the scene where, so there's a scene where he uses Cull Obsidian, whichever one of them. I think it's Cull Obsidian. That, remember, was fighting like Doctor Strange and had the ability to like move stuff and do all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you sure that's Ebony Maw?
Ebony Maw.
That's Ebony Maw. That was the
Ebony Maw.
When he did that with the fingers out.
But if you look at that scene, when he changes his hand to match him, he's also wearing the same rings as Ebony Maw.
Ooh, I did not catch that. Now that, how the hell did you do that? You got DNA. I mean,
hey, bro, listen.
I don't know.
But you also have to remember that, like, okay, Scarlet Witch probably had blood that was out there, but they don't have her abilities. And same thing with like Doctor Strange. But Doctor Strange isn't, his is like a mental, a learned ability, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. You can't take this by having his DNA.
Here's what's tricky about Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch being a witch, it's magic. It's not necessarily DNA. However, whatever they did to her, I feel like still changed her DNA if it came from the stone originally, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if they end up retconning her to be a mutant, then it would have worked if they would have got her blood too, which is another possibility. It puts me in a place where I'm like, no matter what happens on the entire planet, why wouldn't you just call Gaia? No matter what. Like, why wouldn't you just call
We don't need Gaia. The Avengers no more. It's Gaia. She is the Avengers.
No matter what. Like, she has Captain Marvel's powers, bruh.
And a multitude of others.
Let's think about this for a second. Captain Marvel was bodying Thanos with the Power Stone. Like, she was trying to take the Power Stone out of the gauntlet. When he hit her with the
Molly Walker.
He was scared. His face, as soon as he realized it was like,
listen, and if you remember, the look on her face was like, ain't no struggle here. Like, dog, I'm about to just body you.
Oh, he headbutted her and she ain't moved.
Yeah. No, she ain't flinched. No.
Yeah, but Slim had the Power Stone. And if you remember, because listen, it really bothered me that people was going so hard on Hulk because Hulk was scared, dog. But please remember that Thanos had the Power Stone when he beat Hulk on Thor's ship.
I feel like that was just power of the hands. I don't think he used that stuff.
Nah, bro.
He got them hands, but he got that Power Stone with it.
I'm not saying that Thanos isn't strong, and I'm not saying that Thanos doesn't have hands. But, sir, nah, dog. No, sir. He had the Power Stone, and if you go back and watch the movie, you can see that he activates the stone when he's fighting. He's using the stone. So, like, again, he has 2 stones when that happens. So it's not like Thanos just walked up and bodied Hulk like Hulk wasn't nothing. I
think people think that way because that's the first time, like, your first time seeing him get busy, and you're not familiar yet with him grabbing all the stones and all that kind of stuff. You just think he just off just GP, just whooping up on Hulk.
Well, that's kind of my point. Is I think they didn't really portray it quite right.
Yeah.
Because I think, yes, you're supposed to be shocked that the Hulk just got bodied.
Right.
But you're not. They didn't do a good job of making sure that you're aware that it really only happened because he had the stones. Hulk doesn't know that. You understand what I'm saying? And so Hulk's like, man, I ain't going out there, which is cool.
Completely justified. Like, bro, he just whooped me, Slim. I'm done.
I took my ass whooping. I'm done for the day.
I'm done. I'm done.
Go ahead,
bro.
Puny Banner. Use your smarts to outwit this dude.
You just sent Banner out there to fight.
This is a Hulk that just came from seeing Surtur. That was like out there in the streets of Asgard getting busy, bro.
Thor couldn't handle it. He's like, we
with
got
God. With gods, bro. So, like, when this dude shows up and puts the brakes on him, again, he has the Power Stone and he had whichever one the blue one is. I can't think of it right now. But so he wasn't, but they didn't really portray that well, I think.
Space
Stone,
yeah.
which is the Tesseract.
Right.
Yeah. It controls space and power. Like, hey, dog, if the Hulk had beat him while he had those 2 stones, the Hulk is definitely unstoppable, bro. Like, come on. But Captain Marvel, Slim had the stone. Like, he had that thing, bro, and she was like, I don't even care.
Hey, he had to pull that Molly Whopper so quick.
Gaia knocked this fool to the ground and then floated above Slim in the exact Captain Marvel pose, bruh. Like, you don't understand that, like, the superhero landings are in the DNA of the people. Yeah. It's in the DNA of the people. Dog, she's too powerful. Bruh. She's too powerful.
I'm gonna have to tone her down somehow.
She took Captain Marvel's abilities. Like, we've seen when Captain Marvel shoots like the energy beams out of her hands, like they'll hit something. They just hit somebody. It looks like it hurts. But she hit Gravik with that one hit finisher, Dragon Ball Z, shoot energy wave through your chest.
Definitely.
It just finished my man. I still got issues. My man does have extremis, so I feel like he
does have extremis.
I feel like he should have been able to heal all because damn near. Gaia was dead. She had extreme. So
Extremis saying, "No, you're not."
Yeah, so it was just a bullet, so maybe it's the amount. Like, look, we've seen Extremis, like, literally somebody lose an arm and they just roll the whole arm back. Like, we've seen Extremis do that.
So he should not technically be dead.
All I know is Gaia did.
Unless they disintegrate him.
With Captain Marvel's
If she had blown his head off, I'd have been like, oh, okay, Slim, that's it.
It's done.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
I don't know.
Ding, ding, ding. It's
like maybe Skrull's brains aren't in their head. I don't know. Yeah. Slim is extremely powerful. I do want to take a moment to just note the disrespect that Peter Parker's not on that list. I'm gonna slap Nick Fury in his mouth, dog. Don't disrespect my man like that. Now, like, I can understand that you know who he is. Talos pretended to be you and hit the you been to space, like, you know who this dude is. You didn't have him collect Peter DNA? Because my man was bleeding all over the place out there.
Oh, in Endgame? Oh, that's
what I'm saying.
Yeah, trying to carry the football. Yeah. He was hurt.
The only thing,
you said that there was like some names on the list or whatever that you had some specific questions about. Like, was it about like how they got the DNA or where it came from or whatever?
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people I saw was going through Twitter was asking about Ghost, but I already knew she was already being trained from that side before she became what she did. So I was like,
she was a SHIELD agent.
She was right, yeah. So hers made sense. So I wasn't sure why people were so confused about that one, but I'm trying to think which one, because obviously the battle of Earth.
Go through the list again.
Go through the list one more time.
Ghost, Ebony Maw, Captain Marvel, Frost Beast, Groot, Captain America, Corvus Glaive, Thanos, Outrider, Proxima Midnight, Abomination, Mantis, Cull Obsidian, Drax, Korg, Hulk, Chitauri, Valkyrie, Thor, Gamora, Winter Soldier, and Extremis.
Korg. Outside of
Korg was in the fight at the end of the joint.
So I guess
Korg
they all
was in
just
the fight in that game.
Yeah, so I guess they all just dropped. Really that's
remember that Korg lives on Earth now, bruh. New Asgard.
That you know what that is. I forget the New Asgard is a thing.
Now, here's the other thing. My man President Richardson declared war on all alien beings anywhere on Earth.
Oh,
so it also means New Asgard. What kind of fight you trying to start, my guy?
Hey, bring it over here if you want to. Asgard ain't playing.
Hey, and you gonna have this dude Thor come back and all the stuff that I did for this planet as Thor of the Avengers.
And bring his little daughter, child, or whatever with him with her powerful tail. Come on now, don't do that. Don't do that.
So that's an interesting.
That's super interesting though.
We are creating World War III because like literally you're gonna have. I mean, for all this, like you said, New Asgard is on Earth. So
let me put my comic book cap on for a second. This is a comic book cap, by the way. This would be kind of crazy. There's so much going on already, dog, with what's happening with Loki and time and variants and whatever. But a key component of what happened in the comics with mutants was that Magneto forced the government to give him the land that they used. Like they did eventually end up in the Savage Land, but he forced the government to give them the land that they used for Genosha. Y'all don't want us to be where y'all are, whatever. All we want to do is live in peace and be, you know what I'm saying, our own whatever. I want to create a safe haven. So he, to make a long story short, basically forced the governments of the world to give them a space where they could go be where they, you know, be themselves and be who they are. And it's possible they do something and they carve out a specific space for anybody who, and maybe it's New Asgard, you know what I mean, or something like that. But also, there's still a giant being from outer space that's in the ocean.
Yeah. So you gonna pick a fight with that as well?
Maybe they gonna live on the palm of that joint's hand. I don't know, dog. I'm just saying, there's some things that have to be addressed in the MCU. Period.
No, that joint is only been talked about one time, and that joint was in passing on a newspaper article. But
that was in Miss Marvel, I believe.
Yeah, because they did the same time with the Wolverine and the Claw.
Wolverine thing. So look, they basically verified that they're here, which means there could easily be a Magneto that's here.
Especially with them bringing in mutants. Yeah. So declaring war against, you know, everybody who's intergalactic, not from this Earth or whatever. Like you're focused on Skrulls right now, but take a second and think. You're barking up a bigger tree. You're barking up a real bigger tree. You might not want to tussle with.
I mean, for real, here's the thing. This episode, again, like, personally for me, it left a lot to be desired, right? I enjoyed a lot of things about the episode.
Agreed.
I don't think I was happy with the way it ended, but I was happy with where it ended. Like, where it puts the MCU, right? Because there's still just a lot of questions. And anytime they do that, and it's like, all right, well, now we got to wait for Armor Wars, or we got to wait for Brave New World, or we got to wait for, you know, there's going to be the Marvels, right? And, like, clearly we know, like, Nick is going back to Saber. He's taking his wife with him, so maybe she's in the movie. You know what I'm saying? Gaia is staying on Earth. She's working with MI6. probably means they're going to form another superhuman team or something.
We'll go in that direction.
Definitely be a thing.
Captain Britain.
So, there's just a lot of possibilities. So they leave a lot of things open. What does Gaia's character mean going forward? What do we get from Sonya Falsworth going forward? What does it mean for Britain getting their own heroes, right? And is it time for like Disney, in terms of Marvel and so forth, to branch beyond like New York and San Francisco and really start having heroes that exist and come from other places?
Yeah.
Yes, right? Give other countries and so forth. They did that going, like, you had your Captain America. You eventually got to the place where you had Black Panther, which was great for people of color and black people specifically. Then you go and you do Shang-Chi. Great. You know what I mean? You have Moon Knight. Right? So you have these things that are starting to kind of be in places of other cultures and other countries and people of color and so forth. So sure, let's give Captain Britain a run. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. So there's a lot, right, that could happen. So I'm not dissatisfied as a whole with where the series leaves us going forward in the MCU. Almost a lot of questions. Makes me want to go back and look at old stuff, which I'm sure is a thing they want, right? I know that there are things that had to be rewritten, right? Because that whole war with the Ukraine thing that's really happening between Russia and the Ukraine, we're in a fight with the Russians in this show, and they mention Ukraine, and that was supposed to be a thing in this show, and they had to rewrite it. So even though they still mention it in this, it was supposed to be a much heavier plot line. So again, like, I try to give some thought to the fact that while they're doing this stuff, things are happening in the real world that, like, when you are what draws me to Marvel, a company that has these heroes that can do all these kind of strange and wild and weird things, but they're grounded in places that are real places, in times that are more or less real time. It's very different from like being concerned about what's happening in Gotham City because that's not a real place, or what's happening in Metropolis because that's not a real place, right? But like when you put out that very first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trailer, and the very first joint, he makes the web between the two towers, and then the two towers get blown up. You can't run that trailer anymore. You have to change that movie almost entirely, right? Because we're talking about characters that exist in the world that we inhabit, right? Plus, you're coming out of the pandemic, right? And your writers and whatever. And now you have a writer's strike and an actor's strike and, whatever else. So, like, I can give some space, right? For some things to be different. As a whole, having completed the series, Sin, where do you sit grade-wise with the series?
I'm at like a 6 probably with the series as a whole.
Which is interesting.
And I think it's just
all the episodes you gave 8s.
8, 7s, but it's one of those now that's all done and like the excitement's over. We have these type of conversations, and you go back and all the stuff we've just talked about, looking at it like from the problems with the last episode, the issues we had with not, missing that moment of not being able to say it to Nick, for instance, and just, okay, what happened with the radiation, if y'all been there all these years and all that kind of stuff, and that not being a thing, like just going back in retrospect and looking at it from that angle is what brings it down for me. I enjoyed the ride to get here the first time, but now when you sit here, you go back and start thinking about like, oh, wait, hold up. As you go back through it, it just begins to slowly just dilute it for me.
Like, listen, I'll tell you this much. There's a part of me that could give them the benefit of the doubt, right? That the Skrulls are feeding these people. Because again, Rhodey basically been captured for like 10 years.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, as far as retrospect, that can adjust as well. How they maybe answer these questions as we get later down the line, like Marvel does. Like when stuff doesn't pay off 2 years later, like, oh, got it. Let me go back and watch that again. Now I see why they did it like this. So that number, even though it's a 6 right now, it can fluctuate depending on what happens, TV show, movie, or whatever down the line as all the stuff with the Skrulls, continues to happen. So,
Jokes, what about yourself, man? Where are you? The whole series.
Overall, I think I'm at a 7. Okay. I feel like they did an okay job. Like, even though we've submitted, there's a million Skrulls on the play, like, I still don't necessarily fully feel the ramifications of what we've gone through. Obviously, yes, Fury's alluded to the president, you've made a bad decision. You need to go back on what you say. And like you said, this could be something we may not really see again until like Brave New World. They'll probably mention some things in the Marvels, but I feel as though those ramifications weren't put into place. Kind of like Infinity War, everybody got snapped. We knew like, oh, this is bad, but I don't really feel like this got that type of a closure. Like Nick Fury got a happy ending, but we kind of just left everything else on the burner. A lot of questions. I'm not mad when we have a lot of questions, but I feel like there should have been a few things answered or at least alluded to, and so we could. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're going to speculate regardless, but I think it was done. But I think my overall thing is, I think when we started shrinking each one of these episodes down, I think that kind of maybe made it lose a little bit of that extra polish that it could have done. Even adding in an extra 5 minutes in certain places in each one of these episodes, a quick explanation of something, showing a quick location or something, like just adding that extra 5 minutes, I believe could have helped with each of the episodes. Because the first and the second episodes being like 50 minutes and it was like 48 minutes, they felt solid. This last episode, I think, felt rushed because now it's like, okay, this is supposed to give us the big ending that we should get, but I didn't feel that with this episode. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's kind of like really, instead of being 6 episodes, this was 4 episodes. Because you basically got like 2 hour-long episodes and then like 4 30-minute episodes. Yeah. So it's like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, a little bit longer than that, but it's almost like, yeah, you basically gave us 4 episodes, which is hard to tell all this in, right? Like, I'm with you. So, a 7. I think I'm at a 7.5. I think that for so much of the show, I enjoyed it. And from an episode to episode perspective, it was cool. And I'm questioning, okay, how's this going to pay off? And I think that was the point, right? Give me some of that spy thriller, questionable stuff. Who do you trust? Who's a Skrull? Who's not a Skrull? What does it really mean, right? And as you kind of close it on the end of it, it's like, well, the only Skrull really is Rhodey. Like, you know what I mean? As far as like people we care about.
Yeah, as far as even within this, yeah.
But by the time we got to the 5th episode, we were questioning like, okay, well, where's Ross? Because Ross has to be alive somewhere, and that means him and Rhodey are probably somewhere together. And sure enough,
they were.
They're there together. We still have no idea how long Ross has been
a Skrull. Yeah.
And I didn't even think to go back and look at what he was wearing.
It's like a long sleeve.
I'll tell you in a second.
But my man had a lot of access, and it does make me wonder, like, was he a Skrull when him and his wife got divorced? Because she definitely is running things. She's the head of the CIA. Did that happen on purpose? Was that caused to kind of make some space? Because I would think if she's the head of the CIA and you're a Skrull that's ever Ross, you want to be as close to that joint as possible.
Ross was wearing, like, from the top, like a black long sleeve, like undershirt almost or something like that, buttoned up at the top.
Like they just snatched him in the middle of the night out of his bed.
Wait, you know what? Was he wearing that joint in Black Panther 2 when he was home talking to what's his face and they was in like the kitchen? He was having a conversation with her at one point, and I feel like that may have been what he had on.
Possible. I mean, I don't know.
That's something we can't really see right now. So,
all right.
I know that if my man has been, I know that if Slim has been a Skrull for as long as I think he might have been a Skrull, then Slim was definitely had access to what was like talking to them.
Yeah, he was talking constantly.
Like rapping a taste with them. So, totally possible Dora Milaje could have a Skrull in it somewhere. It just, they're still like, you're still in this place where, like, I mean, anybody could still be. Anybody who doesn't have powers could
easily have been trend. Like, I'd have been cool if we'd at least gotten at least one person's time frame. Maybe the Rhodes one they want to hold on to for like Armor Wars, Brave New World. But I feel like the Ross one, I feel like that one probably could have been, he could have said, you know, last thing I remember was
blah blah blah,
why whatever, and that would at least given us a sort of a time one. Like, I feel like somebody's we could have.
I mean, I feel like maybe that was supposed to be in there because it does. Again, it feels really weird to me that the first thing he did when he woke up was look at
ask for how long have you been here?
How long have you been here?
Yeah.
How the hell would he know that? How would he know how long he been there? It don't even like it's not even a good question to ask. Like, I'd be like, yo, how long have I been here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
Almost like maybe Ross realized what happened. I don't know. Maybe he got down there, he was awake, and then they finally put him under. And then when I don't know. It seemed like he kind of knew, like, what had happened, but I don't know.
I mean, it seems that he. Look, it's totally possible that he was aware of the Skrulls, but like, I don't have him voluntarily going to somewhere that is as irradiated of a place.
Hey, he could have had
some. That joint is, though. Like, I don't know how they kept all them people alive, bro.
I don't. Could have had some vibranium, something to keep him alive in that zone.
The more I think about it, the more like they weren't like.
Okay, I got an answer to the question.
All right, what's up?
That's what he was wearing in the kitchen, Jokes.
I looked at that and I was like,
that's what he was wearing in the kitchen.
So is she a Skrull?
It's just every answer opens up another question.
You know what I mean? Like, it. You know, was she trying to form her own team so that they could get their DNA and make
Thunderbolts? Like,
it just feels like that would have came up. That doesn't make sense to me. But totally possible.
Yeah. That's what he has on in the kitchen.
But if that's the case, listen to me now. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, that means that the person that Okoye rescued was a Skrull. And she quite possibly took Slim back to Wakanda. That's all I'm saying.
We're closing in on when the swap happened.
Which that makes
somewhere around here.
When he was in the woods doing the meetup, that was probably the opportune moment. They realized, oh, my man's about to go out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, before this, he had on a shirt and tie. Before this.
Or when he was jogging, that's what it was. I think he was working out when the little thing came along. I don't know, but clearly,
at some point after he had this shirt on, is when it happened.
It happened during Black Panther 2.
At some point.
And you know what? That could have been something before they had to obviously go through and redo Black Panther 2. That could have been something they could have had possibly teased within there for it. But we're gonna have to wait a while before we get anybody's explanation. I just want, like, give me Ross's explanation. Just one person, just so we could be like, okay, he got taken in Black Panther 2. They now know Wakanda exists, and they know the vibranium what the Wakandans did. They also know about Namor. And
I mean, it would have made sense to me, right? Just because at that point to take somebody like Ross makes sense because Fury has been gone. And the blip is over, and he came back and didn't come help. Like, just kind of disappeared and went off the saber. At that point, it makes sense that you would be like, okay, we're about to go do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure. But like, if Talos called people while Fury was gone, put out the AP, like, yo, y'all just come here because Fury's gone and we got to figure something out or whatever. Any of them Skrulls that came to the planet and just were like, I gotta live here somehow, some way. You know, I just gotta take on these people's personas or, you know, whatever. It's hard to say. I think there's a lot. There's still a lot to figure out. There's a lot that they can do. I don't really like the way this joint ended, but I'm all about, all right, what happens next? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What does that mean for the Marvels? What does that mean for Brave New World? What does that mean for Armor Wars? What does that mean for Echo? What does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, all of those things are still things that, like, make sense. We can see Skrulls and Echo. What does that mean for Daredevil when Daredevil's getting literally 18 episodes split into 2 9-episode right? Like, why you gotta do that?
I'm not mad at it, honestly.
I'm not either.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm good with it. All right, so look, for the show as a whole, I mean, 7.5, a 6, and a 7.
Mm-hmm.
For the episode itself, I'm at a 7.
I've come down to a 7. Now I came down
to a 7.
Yeah.
Jokes.
Mm-hmm. Still in my 7.
You're at a 7. So look, we'll be right back at it with Spoiler Boys, with some more movies and TV shows as they come. I'm so excited about another season of Invincible coming.
Oh, yeah. That Ahsoka.
I'm so excited about that.
Ahsoka, yep.
And Ahsoka, sure. So we'll certainly be back. So stay tuned. You know, look for that. Probably try to throw some additional movies in. There's a lot of movies coming out. Definitely plan on going to see Ninja Turtles ASAP. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. For myself, Gage, for Jokes, for Sin. We are the Spoiler Boys, and this has been the Spoiler Boys episode for the finale of Secret Invasion, and for the final episode of Secret Invasion. With that, we're out. Tools and Loot.
Loading snacks.